In this episode, we speak with Apurva Nair, a partner at Oliver Wyman, where he leads post-deal value creation within the firm's private equity practice. Apurva works with private equity firms and their portfolio companies to improve operational and financial performance, often focusing on cost, pricing, and EBITDA growth. Most of his projects take place immediately after an acquisition, helping portfolio companies strengthen margins and prepare for exit. Before joining Oliver Wyman, he served as partner and COO at a boutique consulting firm with operations across the US, Europe, and Asia. Apurva was recognized by the Consulting Report as one of the top private equity consultants and leaders of both 2024 and 2025. Oliver Wyman is a global management consulting firm advising clients across industries on strategy, operations, and organizational transformation. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you liked the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the executive chairman of Market Insight Media and managing partner of GrowthCap. He is the host of Top Consultant, a podcast featuring today's best consultants who advise and provide services to corporations, governments, nonprofits, and other organizations. Executives and key decision makers tune in to Top Consultant to identify the most knowledgeable and experienced consultants for their most important projects.
Apurva, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So first off, these are good conversations because we get a chance to get to know you, your expertise, your experience. But maybe to kick off, which sport do you prefer, cricket or soccer?
Cricket. I think cricket by a long way.
It seems like you have a good background or history or affinity for the sport.
Yeah, I grew up playing cricket. In fact, I don't remember not playing. So I play as much as my job and my body allow.
We'll get into your focus area in consulting. You came over to the States, and did you immediately enroll in Dartmouth? Was that the kind of...
I moved to the US to go to Dartmouth.
Okay, got it. And what was your focus while at Dartmouth?
I studied engineering and then engineering management and applied mathematics.
Got it. And then from there, you went right into the consulting field?
Yes, I knew I wanted to do consulting. In fact, I was in a PhD program and was not too far away from finishing when I think something snapped and I decided I was just ready to go start working. So I converted my PhD work into a second master's thesis and then been in consulting ever since.
Okay. And how did you eventually get to focus on the private equity space and PE-backed companies?
I kind of fell into it about 10 years ago when I did work at a private equity-owned manufacturing business for the first time. And I think I enjoyed the speed at which private equity firms operate versus typical corporate businesses. Mm-hmm. And I think that just snowballed from there.
Okay, got it. In that first portfolio company, what was your mandate? Was it to increase EBITDA?
Yeah, it was a very EBITDA-focused project, and we worked on both cost and price. So it was top and bottom line efforts focused on driving EBITDA. So we worked on making sure the business is buying the right products from the right suppliers at the right price at the right time, which had a sort of an inventory management component to it. Mm-hmm. And then similarly on the top line, we wanted to see what their pricing strategy was versus competitors and sort of help them fine tune that as well.
Mm-hmm. How does a private equity firm know to contact you and Oliver Wyman versus another major consulting firm and their specialists within the private equity space?
I think our team at Oliver Wyman, in fact, the team I lead, is particularly focused on private equity operations. And we don't claim to be everything to everybody. We're very focused on specific industries. So if it's anything to do with engineered products, manufacturing items, anything that produces a widget, I think we're particularly well-placed and well-class in that regard. The partners in my team are super hands-on versus a lot of our competitors that work with generalists. So we don't have any generalists on our team, or everybody on our team has specialized in this particular type of work. So, which is why we stand out. So when we go into a bake-off versus competitors, I think this part becomes more readily apparent. I will say there are areas where some of our competitors may lead us in certain regards, but I think as far as delivering results for private equity-owned manufacturing, industrial, sort of anything that produces a widget engineered product space, I think we deliver results that have been known to be substantially better than most of our competitors.
Mm-hmm. And would you be able to give us like an example? I understand like sometimes you can't mention the name of a company, but just an example of how maybe your team has dropped into a situation and dramatically helped out a company.
Sure. We were doing work at a PE-owned business that was operating at about 11 to 12% EBITDA, and most of their peers were at close to 20% EBITDA. So our mandate was to run a transformation that helped them achieve that goal. So it was a 1.5 year long process where we looked at their costs across the board, their material formulations, their product designs, pricing, and it was, painstaking and rigorous, but very deliberate in the actions that we took. And we achieved about 21% EBITDA at the end of it. So it was a really, really big lift. So we dedicated, at different times, a 12 to 14-person team, but the results were meaningful. So we went from essentially a 60% EBITDA uplift.
And, when one thinks about Oliver Wyman, like what are the other benefits to, say, partnering with your group? Are there kind of extensions into the broader Oliver Wyman organization that you can bring to bear on the client?
Yeah, so Oliver Wyman is part of Marsh McLennan, which is, I think, just yesterday been rebranded as Marsh. So we have deep ties into Marsh, Mercer. Mercer is one of the sort of leading global HR consulting firms. And then Marsh is one of the largest insurance companies in the world. So we have some deep roots in that regard and are able to draw insights from both of those businesses when we look at larger transformations. So we've developed tools in conjunction with Marsh that helps PE-owned businesses figure out what their exposure to tariffs may be, or what their exposure to different catastrophic events globally, maybe whether it's earthquakes or fires and so on and so forth, and helps PE firms then plan what the manufacturing footprint of their portfolio company should be. So it goes beyond pure sort of consulting problem solving. There's access to data points that consulting firms wouldn't typically have.
You're in charge of a group within an overall consulting firm. The mandate probably for yourself is to grow your book of business. And how do you go about doing that? Is it kind of cross-selling from other top consultants within your overall firm? Do you go out directly and start developing relationships with private equity firms? Do you go directly to the portco CEOs? How do you go about doing it?
I think it's a combination of all three. I think our sort of private capital ops team in particular, we've developed extremely nuanced points of view on value levers within certain industries and subverticals. That's quite unique, given that we're very deep in specific spaces. And so PE firms are always willing to listen to ideas that have a strong track record of success. So that's how we sort of go to market. We're not trying to boil the ocean and attack every private equity firm on the planet. So we, in our mind, isolated, 10 to 12 private equity firms that we think are the right fit for us based on their investment profile and the way in which they work with their portfolio companies. So there are some PE firms that are extremely hands-off and let portcos run on their own, and they have a different sort of philosophy on how they approach value creation. The PE firms that we like to work with are some combination of hands-off and prescriptive, where they guide the portfolio companies on what the right actions to take with regards to value creation are, and we're able to collaborate with those PE firms much more effectively. So we've sort of isolated our target set, and then we go about developing relationships with those based on expertise that we've learned from doing the work.
Do these tend to be more mid-market private equity?
Yeah. So we're focusing on the core mid-market. Historically, we did work in the lower mid-market, and I think we've realized that our work is better suited and is higher impact to PE firms in the core mid-market versus the lower mid-market.
And then you said that within the sectors are typically manufacturing.
When people think of manufacturing, that they're usually thinking of heavy industrial goods. It's not so much the heavy industrial goods. I think for us, it's anything that produces a physical widget, whether it's apparel, whether it's power systems, whether it's tires, whether, anything that produces a physical widget, whether it's, injection molded parts or metal stamped parts. I think we do particularly well across the board in these areas. Outside of these, we have had some meaningful success in telecom and software as well. But in terms of volume of work that we do, I think it's much more geared towards industrial goods.
And what stage would you like to get involved? If it's a private equity firm, maybe like analyzing a potential opportunity, they're figuring out whether or not they want to actually make the investment, or do you get involved after they make the investment and they know what they want to do? Like at what stage do you get involved?
So our larger private equity practice gets involved right in the beginning at the diligence phase. The team that I lead, we occasionally get involved at the early stages where we combine a commercial diligence with an operational diligence. And then the majority of our work is immediately post-acquisition. So I'd say in terms of number of projects, I think maybe 75% of our work is immediately post-acquisition or shortly pre-sale. where we're doing value creation work to improve the business's performance that will ultimately affect valuation. 25% of the work is a combination of pre and post deal. So we do buy and sell side work.
And do you actually drop some of your team into the portfolio company?
Do you mean like on an interim basis kind of thing?
Yeah.
Occasionally, yes. Occasionally, yes. Generally, it's not very common because PE firms generally have a stable of their own ops folks that drop into specific functions. But we have had team members who have joined private equity firms as chief procurement officers and so on.
And do you do this on a global basis across all countries?
My team is currently North America focused. We do work on private equity firms that have portfolio companies in Asia and Europe as well. But the bulk of the work is North America.
Got it. And it seems like you are focused on a certain set of private equity firms. And are they based in US and Europe?
They're generally American private equity firms. Many of them have global footprints, but the majority of their investments are in North America.
Got it. Leading a group within a consulting firm also entails that you have a strong team. I guess you came over to Oliver Wyman, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yes.
Did you bring team members over? How did you go about constructing your team?
It happened quite organically. When I joined Oliver Wyman, my focus was working on post-deal projects. Our post-deal work, what I'm doing is not new, but I think it wasn't probably as organized and as focused as it is now. In the past, we had a few partners that were going out and doing this type of work, but I think what I was able to do is sort of focus everyone into a common purpose and say, okay, we need to be much more focused when we're going to market because we're subscale versus many of our competitors, and our scale did not accurately represent our ability to deliver value. So what we've been able to do is sort of corral a group of key partners and then a pyramid underneath of folks that enjoy doing this type of work. And so it's much more with an intent to come across as much more focused, integrated, value-driven, as opposed to earlier it was much more opportunistic.
Consulting is one of those industries where it's still very much in favor for like new grads coming out, whether it be from undergrad or coming out of MBA school. What do you look for in candidates?
I get this question a lot. I think having a good attitude and willingness to learn, I think are what set candidates apart. Being good at math, being good at PowerPoint, Excel, all those are table stakes. Everybody comes to interview at a consulting firm, you would assume have those skills. If they're lacking in one or two of those skills, having a good attitude and willingness to learn greatly make up for the absence of teachable skills. So I think those two things for me are far more valuable than hard skills, which are coachable.
Last two questions. We're coming up on the tail end here. One is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
I can't put my finger on a single person, but I think the way my career has evolved and my style has evolved has been an amalgamation of the influences from people across the spectrum and across my career journey in consulting. There are things that I've learned from people that I look up to, and there are things that I've learned from people of what not to do. So a lot of times I tell my team that I aim to treat everybody on my team the way I wish I was treated when I was an analyst or a consultant or an associate or a manager. And I think that goes a long way. So I think rather than attribute characteristics to one person, I think I'm a bit of a Frankenstein of multiple people over my career.
Okay. Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
I was affiliated with the Taproot Foundation, which I did some consulting work with, which I think is a wonderful organization. I'm also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and we do a lot of charity work and sort of community building through the fraternity. Outside of that, I try to get as involved as I can in community schools around and teaching and coaching and things of that nature. Beyond that, it's a bit hard work-wise to find time for philanthropic ventures, but always available to lend a hand or an ear to anyone that needs it.
Excellent. Well, Apurva, thank you again for taking the time. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you very much. Nice chatting.